Talk about travel, because during the second lockdown, you're being told not to make unnecessary journeys. So what exactly is an unnecessary journey? And because if you do, it's really important. You're looking at a fine, could be £200. And making that non-essential car journey during lockdown could even prove costly because your car insurance could be invalid if you drive during lockdown. So let's get all you need to know this morning. We're joined by motoring lawyer Nick Freeman, who can help us unwrap the facts. He broke the story. And Nick, it's interesting because I think during the second lockdown, there is a lot more, can I do this, can't I do this? We had a BBC reality check journalist in with us on Friday trying to unravel, some of the conundrums. Driving didn't come up. So can you remind us what the rules are around driving right now?
Yes, good morning, Anna.
Morning.
Essentially, you're allowed to travel for essential purposes. So that would include work. It now includes exercise, medical appointments. If you were caring for a vulnerable person, you will be allowed to do that. Certain very limited essential types of shopping. But you can't, for example, go to a friend's house and play tennis in their garden, or you can't go and you can't go swimming in a lake. Well, maybe you can actually. It's
exercise.
It's confusing. That will be classified as exercise. You can't do the sort of things that we used to do, such as, I suppose, I'm just trying to think of something that you're going to meet a group of pals and say, let's take a few beers in the car and let's do that. You could do it with one person as long as you socially distanced. If you did it with a group, that journey would then become a non-essential journey. You would be flouting the legislation. And the difficulty is that if en route to that place or en route back, you were involved in an accident, the insurance company would examine why you were travelling, where you were going, what was the purpose of it. And they would say, well, that actually is a non-essential journey. You don't have a reasonable excuse for making that journey, and your policy would be invalid. And so that, of course, could be very costly. So, of course, you have an insurance certificate in force, but you're breaching the terms of your insurance under the current temporary legislation.
Wow.
And I think many people in the first lockdown and second lockdown just don't appreciate that. No. This was a point that I did raise during the first lockdown. But I think the difficulty now is because there have been so many different rules. There's so much confusion, even at governmental level, and we've heard so many mistakes from different ministers when they're outlining what the rules are. For example, Michael Gove said you can play tennis and play golf, and then he said, "Oh, sorry, no, you can't."
No, you can't. Yeah.
So everybody seems to be quite confused, but people overlook actually what motorists can and can't do, and unfortunately, that they have quite a tough deal. And it's very important when you're driving to make sure that you are covered and you are driving for an essential purpose. Because it can be even worse than that, because if you were in fact involved in a very serious accident, the costs of that accident, if your policy was vitiated, would stay with you for the rest of your life. You be made bankrupt, you might have to sell your house to pay for the damage. These things can be catastrophic, and I don't want to over-dramatize it, but it is important, obviously, to comply with the law, but to be aware that if you're taking a chance, when you get in that car, you're not insured. You wouldn't be, the insurance company wouldn't indemnify you. That's the important thing. You wouldn't be indemnified. So you wouldn't be prosecuted for not having insurance, because on the face of it, you do have insurance, but the insurance company would fail to indemnify you, or could fail to indemnify you. It depends on the particular insurance company. But I've no doubt, and it's been reported that certain insurance companies would say, look, if there's if it's a non-essential journey, then we would look at not indemnifying the driver under those circumstances. And you can understand why. It's a business to them, and why shouldn't they? So the motorist needs to be very careful, needs to be aware, because you could be saddled with a massive bill.
So important to know. Absolutely. And you're right, there is confusion. I was having a socially distanced chat with my neighbour over the fence about this, and we were confused. So you say you can travel, you can drive for exercise. So you could drive somewhere and go for a walk.
You can now drive for exercise. And that's why I hesitated when I said swimming. When you go and swim in the river, swim in the lake, swim in the sea. And now you can exercise for as much as you like, which of course, does confuse it a bit more, because the government laid down guidelines before. So and as far as I'm aware, we're not limited to how many times a day we go and exercise.
No, and how
So
far can we go from our homes? Do we know? Because are we still advised to keep it local? And if so, what's local?
I think we're advised to keep it local. How long's a piece of string? We're supposed to use it. So look, if you lived in London, I don't think it will be acceptable for you to drive down to Kent to say, well, I want to go and exercise, or to drive to Cornwall, or drive to Devon, or drive to Bournemouth. I think you've got to use your head, but it's vague, it's not clear, and they'd have to get you banged to rights to be able to prove it. It's not easy because there are lots of grey areas, which is unsatisfactory from a statute point of view.
Yes.
We need to have certainty, and of course, one thing we don't have is certainty at the moment, and it's an ever-changing playing field. But I just feel it's very important for drivers to be aware when they get in the car: is this an essential journey? God forbid I'm involved in an accident. Will the insurance company indemnify me? And if not, then it certainly isn't worth taking the chance.
So important to know. Well, listen, thank you for bringing us right up to date. I've learned something this morning, and I'm sure everyone has as well. Please do come and talk to us again soon. That's the motoring lawyer, Nick Freeman there. So very important, just to reiterate, you need to be on an essential journey or your insurance won't cover you. And to boot, you could be looking at a £200 fine as well. So there you go.